All right, welcome to the CycloneDX Cryptography Working Group, 19th of June, 2025. Let's see the specification, pull request. We've got the algorithm list, that's from
Mhm.
Basil, and we've got the script to generate. This one's ready, actually, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, for my side, I don't know if, I mean, you said also it's fine, but I don't know what his first name, Jan, will say.
Okay, so this one, okay, it's just a DCO. I'm literally talking to you right now, so it's all good. Okay, so this one we've already reviewed. We will set the pass, and we will merge. This is going into, yeah. Okay. And then, so that's in, and then we had Basil's. This is just the, okay, we talked about this last time, actually.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and, yeah, he just, okay. So let's go ahead and merge this. This was ready.
Yep.
Good, good, good. All right. Is there any more for photography? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. Okay, that's it. All right. Um, wow. Let's see. At this point, let's see, what do we have here? It's been a while since I've actually looked at the entirety of the cryptographic branch. Seriously, it's just it hasn't. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me just go to. Okay, no, it's not there yet. It's, okay. So I think the next step for me then is to, because you've done, um, you did the last thing, which was uh,
Families, adding that.
you write the families. So you were able to um, that's for AI. Okay. And where was that again?
It's under algorithm properties. The algorithm
Right
family.
there, right there, right. Okay. Okay. Right. So that's that external schema. Right.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect actually. Um, okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Um, and then I've got on my personal machine, I actually have the script that I need to finish for for the curves.
Mhm.
And I need to do the exact same thing to the schema here once that's done. I guess the next thing for me to do is then we're done essentially with the changes for 1.7, right?
Yes, I think then we are done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There might be a few um I wonder if there was a few enums that were missing from for the 3GPP stuff, but those should be
Um,
fairly elementary to add. But I think the next step for me now is to okay. Next step for me then is now to port these changes over to the XML in the protobuf,
mhm,
so that they're all same, and finish up the curve um, support, and then move that over to both the XML and protobuf as well. So
mhm.
for two, did we already talk about 2.0 and kind of what it's
Yes.
okay, good, good. Um, all right, so it sounds like at this point, um, this group is waiting on me to do some stuff, and I actually have a ton of time today and tomorrow to get this done. So this is actually very good.
Nice.
Um, the what do we want to work on now? Do we want to maybe update the examples or update the guides, or what do you kind of feel like?
Yeah. Don't feel any of those, but I think it makes sense to.
Yes, I should have rephrased that differently.
No,
I
but
feel like taking a nap. That's just me.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like I want to swim or get in a room with air conditioner. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's see. Um, so yeah, the maybe the guide would be good. Um,
Mhm.
we may have to, on some of it, we may have to wait for the curves to be done, but we can at least start on some of the changes and some of the examples, um, updating the examples, that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Um, let's see. Are there anything that is there anything that's like missing from the guide?
Um, no, not directly. Just in general, do you know how often this guide is used? Like, kind of, do you have any kind of statistics, metadata from your website? How often is this actually?
I can try to get that, sure. I'm not sure if Cloudflare keeps kind of a running total or if I can only go back
Mhm,
30 days, but yeah, I'll try to find out. Um, I do know that it's interesting. So I've had a number of conversations with different folks, and I
mhm,
don't know if this is just coincidence or causality or whatever, but my assumption, and kind of everybody's assumption within CycloneDX, was that when we shipped AI support, a couple
mhm,
releases ago, the assumption was that AI bombs would be like all over the place, right? Because
mhm,
AI is everywhere, right? Um, the reality is that they're not. There's very few like folks that are actually talking about it. The folks that are talking about it, there's a lot of them, but they're very, very niche.
mhm,
Whereas in CBOM, everybody's talking about this. Everybody from various governments to critical infrastructure to, I mean, you name it. Everybody
mhm,
wants, everybody essentially has plans for PQC readiness, and this is kind of
mhm,
part of their plan. Um, so while we assumed AI bombs would be the most popular thing after SBOM, the reality is that folks that I talk to, CBOM is in fact more popular. And I was talking to a co-founder of an SCA tool, commercial tool, the other day, and he basically had the exact same experience. In fact, he had
mhm,
literally just got off the phone with a another government who was all talk about CBOM. So, which is great. I think it's getting some adoption. The difference, I
Hmm.
think, it's weird. The difference is that we actually have a guide for CBOM. We actually don't have one for AI yet. It's kind of on the to-do list. We just haven't done it. Again, I don't
Hmm.
know if it's coincidence, um, causation. I'm not sure, but we will be developing a guide for AI. But I do think the CBOM guide is being referenced. There's a lot of people are talking about it at this point. So,
Okay.
but I'll dig up the stats for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you have time, otherwise it's not that important. But just curious, kind of how well it's received. I mentioned also kind of every time someone asks what T-Bone, I'm like, here's the guide. Please look into it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, I think there's a good section on use cases. Um,
Yes,
talk about
actually,
the structure.
yeah. So the use cases are, there would feel like the most value we could add to the guide to extend it, and to being not like taking the examples we have, the practical examples, and converting those to the use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we have sometimes problems in discussion is that to at least from our BU we get the discussion is what information is necessary in the CBOM for specific use cases. And
Ah, okay.
ideally you have everything in there, but even some use cases could be enabled with not all information, but like which are the necessary ones.
Right.
I think that would be quite useful, not only for them, but I think that's also easy to extend in the future. If we have a new use case like Ian's one, you can just add a new use case to that and with an example.
Sure, sure, sure. That makes a ton of sense. Then what we can also do once we actually figure out like what's going to be useful, what data is going to be useful for different use cases. Um, what we can also do is add that to the
Hmm.
bomb maturity model, which has some profiles. Like right now, we've got like just the NTIA minimum elements, but
Hmm.
there's plans to have a security one that's for AppSec, another one that's for foreign ownership, control, and influence, another for operational security, one for threat modeling,
Hmm.
etc. We can have one for the various cryptographic
Yeah.
use cases as well. So that would
Yeah.
be, I think that would be incredibly useful. What we're trying to do then with CycloneDX 2.0 is kind of marry these two things so that you'll actually be able to create profiles that describe the things in CycloneDX 2. And these SCVS will literally be baked into it.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be really nice. So it's basically the idea of external profiles at that point. So it's
Hmm.
basically the opposite of what the SPX folks are doing.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really, really valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I was in one of those calls 2 weeks ago with Matt and
Oh,
Mark.
okay, good. Yeah.
But my understanding was that there's still some catch up from kind of quote maintenance to do to get to support even the 1.6 or 1.7 schema then in terms of profile,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some work we need to do. There's just never enough time in a day.
Hmm.
But yeah. Um, okay, so we've got the use cases, we've got some examples. We just don't tie them all together.
Hmm.
And I think a maybe a cross-reference table and maybe some examples on the various use cases, like you said, would be incredibly useful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it can. I don't know how big the guides normally. I have a couple of documents here that I wrote time ago that are touching basically the DevSecOps. Not it's not a use case. It's more like providing CBOM. So I would also look into that a bit. Um, just sharing knowledge here.
Yeah.
More like what are the places where we think CBOM could be generated from a development point of view, so that it can be used later for different use cases. And then on the use case side, we could then think about, for example, how one could do export regulations with them. So we take then a
Sure.
policy from export regulation, just an example, and validate it against the CMON.
Yep.
We're not
No, that
technical, but yeah.
yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And we don't even have like export control on here.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, we should probably add that. You know, the other group that also is interested in an export control use case is the patents working group.
Uh-huh.
So that's something that they want to have for a use case as well. Um, Now, for the patents, it's not, their capabilities are not big enough to warrant their own guide. So what we're going to do there is we're going to extend the SBOM guide. We're going to change this chapter to something along the lines of license, license and intellectual property, something along those lines, and then we'll have all the patent stuff in
Nice.
here somewhere. Um,
Nice.
because again, it's just not big enough to warrant its own guide. This guide is what, 75 pages, and
Hmm.
it's going to be obviously getting bigger. It'll probably be, my guess is probably around 90 pages when we release CycloneDX 1.7. Um, CBOM guide
Nice.
is quite short by comparison. Not that it has to
Yeah.
be big, it doesn't. But yeah, 25 pages. So I mean, yeah, if you've got some extra content and you want to put it in here, by all means, let's just do that. Just note that the license is here.
Yes.
So yeah,
And if I recall correctly, it was Markdown in like the sketches in Markdown or the writings Markdown. Then you have a compiler for getting it to PDF, right?
exactly. So let's just go to GitHub, Cyclone guides. But yeah, the CBOM, these are all just markdown files,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, there is a action to uh, that then generates the guide, and we can run a
Nice.
workflow to generate any of the guides that we want.
Nice.
So it works out really well.
Okay.
Um,
That's cool.
okay, so were you going to maybe figure out, not to put words in
Yes.
your mouth, but maybe some of the missing content for the guides?
Yes. I feel like I want to have yeah, a part of work in the guide and want to put some more thought into it and some, yeah,
Okay.
I think there's some need for that. Um, I thinking how, let me check. No, I think it's fine from that perspective. I mean, I think there's an overall need, but that's not part of Cyclone to discuss its CBOM concept without being specific to a standard.
Mhm.
Even if it's just to align with basically things that CISA and so on can pick up, because if I recall correctly, for SBOM they were more higher level and then mentioned SPDX and Cyclone as like
Yeah.
instances of those.
Yeah.
But I think that we can do not in Cyclone because it's kind of specific.
Yeah.
But I think the use case part is would make a lot of sense to get a handle on.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. So I think both of us have a little homework. I'm gonna try
Yep.
to wrap. I'm gonna try to wrap like I said, look the curves up today and tomorrow, and then I'll also start on porting the protobuf and porting it to protobuf and XML. Once I get that done, then at that point, what we'll do is we will submit this for community review. There's a 30-day window. And then past that 30-day window, it gets promoted to TC54 and we vote on it. So
Nice.
that's kind of the deal. So we'll get that process started. That means that if all goes well, this will be included in 1.7. We're trying to wrap up 1.7 by sometime in early to mid September
Mhm.
timeframe. So this gives it plenty of time to do that. Um, let's see. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was. If we mentioned it last time or not, but uh, regarding 2.0 and its modularity, there actually will
Mhm.
be a dedicated sub-schema for cryptography. So theoretically, folks will be able to use bits and pieces of the cryptography spec without actually necessarily adopting the entirety of CycloneDX. So if that's what they want to do, they can actually do that. We're going to
Mhm.
make that possible. Kind of like
Nice.
in a very similar sense to like maybe some of the schemas from schema.org, for example, where they're just very
Mm.
general purpose schemas, right? Well, these are obviously going to be schemas specific to software and system transparency, but you'll be able to adopt them piecemeal if that's what you want to do. Um,
Mhm.
um, and hopefully with that, we'll actually be able to get even more adoption than what we currently have.
Nice.
And so that'll be good. I did do a CFP for AppSec, Global AppSec in DC in
Mhm.
early November. So I'm going to be assuming the talk is accepted. I'm going to be doing a little spiel on CycloneDX 2.0, talking a little bit
Nice.
briefly about 1.7, what's new in 1.7, but really focusing the rest of the talk on 2.0, what big architectural changes are happening, how you can prepare your tools for those changes, etc.
Mhm. Nice.
So I should know hopefully, I don't know, maybe another month or so if that talk was accepted. Um,
Okay.
Anything else? Maybe it'll be a short call today.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. So it's a just some small understanding about tooling support after schema is released. Is that there any do you have any kind of from your side from the library any kind of target there? I think I asked this question already. I think you said that the Java library will be quickly or more quickly be aligned with the
Yeah.
schema, but the others are separate maintained or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got a couple libraries that are essentially reference implementations at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The Python one is now, I think, a reference implementation. The JavaScript version as well, and then the Java. So we've got the three that are absolutely reference implementations. The .NET used to be, it's kind of lagged a little bit. We will try to get the .NET up and
Mm-hmm.
running as well because the CLI actually kind of
Mm-hmm.
reuses the .NET library. So we'll try to get the .NET one up as well, but you know. uh,
Yeah.
it obviously takes a lot to update these versions, which is one of the reasons why in 2.0 we're going to be focusing solely on JSON because it's going to reduce the amount of things that maintainers have to do.
Do you know if maybe AI will be already good in creating from a schema those extensions, or is it too? I mean, should be straightforward, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, what we're going to do, and I already have a tool created for Protobuf, but what we're going to do is we're going to do something very similar to what WIPO does. So WIPO is a worldwide intellectual property organization that we've been working with on the patent support. And
Mm-hmm.
what they do, now they're big into XML. So they have a legacy,
Mm-hmm.
they have a history. So everything is XML and it's really large specification. What they do is that they don't support JSON, but what they do is they support a tool that allows people to convert to and from the JSON or to and from the XML to JSON so they can use JSON within their own,
Mm-hmm.
intellectual property office. So that's what they do. And we're going to do something basically similar. So I've got a tool right now that automatically produces the protobuf definition and it
Hmm.
mostly works at this point. There's probably, I don't know, probably 85-90% of that tool is already complete, and we have a working protobuf of 1.6 at this point. So, we'll apply that to 1.7 and eventually apply that to 2.0. The harder thing is
Nice.
going to be supporting XML. Um, but so I don't know if the XML is going to actually, I don't know if that's going to be easy. I don't think it'll be easy. I think it's going to be really challenging. But I
Hmm.
did figure out a really interesting way. It's not going to be like native, but I did figure out kind of an interesting way um to have extensibility in JSON um without actually it being technically extensible, because JSON by definition is not. Um,
Hmm.
but if we look at where was it? I think it's in common. And if we look at common, let's see. Okay, yeah. So I've got this new thing here, and what all this witchcraft does is it allows us to have a hardened schema. However, it
Hmm.
also allows us to have any property that starts with ext colon, um, for example, IBM.com colon, and then like a name as the schema, and then any property within that property can then be accepted.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and then you also have a way, and then if that is a type of object or an array, then there's this property called schema that's actually going to be required. And then
Hmm.
if your tool supports it, you'll then be able to then validate that one little section of that. So it's basically a way to mimic what namespaces do in XML without
Hmm.
actually supporting XML. Um, and without having to deal with all the complexities and limited tooling support that JSON LD has, because JSON LD is just a whole another kind of mess that you get into.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is kind of a way, it's kind of a hackish way to do what I think we want to do, but it's also going to allow people to automatically strip out the extensions if they don't want them. If they
Hmm.
truly want the hardened stuff, just search for ext colon whatever, and boom, just get rid of them.
Right. Right. Okay. It looks nice. Yes.
So I had some help with some AI to actually do this. I'm like, how do I do? Um, so
Do
I
you use
iterated with Claude a lot on that.
ah nice. You use
Um,
JetBrains, their AI, or
I do,
nice,
yes.
nice. Same.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I find that writing like text and stuff and ideation is really, really good in Chat GPT. But and learning new things, like learning new, like I learned Astro and I learned Tailwinds, which are both
Hmm.
web development type things, using Chat GPT, and it was fine. But actually writing
Yeah.
code, yeah, not
Hmm.
so much. Claude is
Yeah.
so much better. It's like
Yes.
night and day better, especially in
Yeah.
idea, because oh my God, I was working on one thing, and I was actually working on the script that takes the CycloneDX JSON schema and
Hmm.
converts it to Markdown for the human readable
Hmm.
version, right? Well, instead of Markdown, it's going to be EC markup from
Hmm.
TC39. So I wanted a script to kind of do most of the conversion. I mean, I still have to go in there and do a lot of things, but it was great because um, Claude within IntelliJ, it was able to do the initial,
Hmm.
conversion, and then it ran it. It looked at the output. It iterated all by itself. It probably did it 10,
Yes.
15 times. And the result was pretty freaking good. It was
Yes.
nice. Is that your
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, I mean, I can only use it on open source projects
Hmm.
because of still our policy. But I have now a routine to kind of in the morning before I check my mails, I use this Juniper or how it's called, this
Hmm.
agent thingy
Yeah.
from, yes. And just, I have a small task for the CBOM kit or like writing test cases or extending it or changing things here, just small things, and just let the agent do it and check after I wash my mails of how it turned out. If I have to change some small things, then I will commit it, or if I discard it, it's pretty good job. It's
Yeah.
I like it. It's and
Nice.
being honest, I do have also so with the other project I'm working on, I do have a development team where I don't know what your experience is with development teams, but if they are not on the level involved that I am involved, you need to really feed them with all the information in details, like
Yes. Yes.
what input validation is needed, all that, like really all that stuff. And I feel like this I can also pass just to Juniper. It would turn out the same way if I
Yeah.
have to even describe it on that level. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So yeah, I think even if we can't support XML, and the reason why I showed you that is even if we can't support XML, I think we have a way to at least mimic XML in a
Mhm.
way where I think it would be acceptable to the handful of organizations that actually use it.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. And again, I want to try to avoid the complexity of JSON LD. Plus, it kind of really limits like what tools actually support it and stuff like that. So,
Okay. Crazy.
so anyway, yeah,
All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
very good.
Then
All right,
yes.
Nicholas. Well, I've got homework to do, and
Same.
great catching up. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you,
All
Steve.
right,
Have a great day.
cheers.
Bye
All
bye.
right, you too. Bye bye.